going to jump right back into the phones. We got a grandparent custody issue. So, caller, go ahead with your call, please.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out what I can do about getting legal custody of my 11-year-old, who I have had in my care since he was 3 months old, and the parents have moved away to Texas, and 5 of the other children that they had have all been removed and adopted. We've even adopted one of them back, but everywhere we checked, everybody's told us there's nothing they can do for us to get legal custody.
All right, Maria, I'm going to suggest something. It's not permanent legal custody, but if nobody ever comes back to undo it, it's probably the best shot you'd have in the state of Florida. Essentially, they did do a grandparents' rights law a couple years back, but it really only deals with emergency situations like death of that situation. There is and I mentioned this in the last segment, Chapter 751. It's basically temporary custody by a familial person, and there are 2 or 3 different things that have to happen, but one of them is actual physical custody of the child for longer than 30 days. Now, part of it is that you do have to go through what is considered, I guess the dependency statute is written into it, and so you do have to allege that the parents have either abused, abandoned, or neglected the child. Now, if they've moved to Texas and aren't coming back, it seems like they may have, abandoned the child.
Yeah, I think our producers told us that that Maria's had the child since 3 months
Right.
old, so you've got 11 years there.
Yeah, and I would suggest that she's probably already met two of the criteria right off the bat. But what that does is it gives you an order from the court system that says you are, you have custody of this child. Now, it is a temporary order in nature, but like I said, a temporary order can be good till they're 18, as long as nobody's coming back to try to undo it. And even if they try to undo it, they still have to come back and say what's changed since this temporary order was entered. So, like I said, it's Chapter 751, temporary custody by a familial person, or there used to be a bloodlines, but now they've added some other statute into that, so it didn't have to be bloodline, but that would be probably the best shot that I can think of off the top of my head.
Rob, would it actually be in Maria's favor for the parents to try to come back and take the child? Because I know that our judges here would take it very serious to ask the question, number one, why did you leave your kid for 11 years?
Yeah, so if this Chapter 751 filing is made and you have a hearing and all of a sudden mom and dad show back up, I think, yeah, that's going to beg the question, where have you been for 11 years? Or where have you, why?
Well, we've got great judges in our judicial circuit here, and I can only see several, I can imagine several of them asking some very direct questions with these parents who have abandoned their kids and looking at their case file to look at what they've done with other children as well.
Well, this would be an interesting situation, because essentially what could happen is one of two things, because you're going to have to get them served. So they're going to know what's going on. So they're either going to sign a consent form, which really is probably you could send one out there and they would sign it, and that would be the easiest way to go about it. And I'd also maybe save them some embarrassment of having to go to a judge and explain what they've been doing for 11 years.
Right.
Or you're going to have a hearing, and then the judges are going to listen to you make your case for why this parent has abandoned this child and what you've done over the last 11 years taking care of this child.
Rob, let's assume for the fact of this case that Maria knows where these parents are in Texas. Mm-hmm. Could she simply get those parents to consent to an adoption?
Well, that I don't know. I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I don't know.
I'm sorry, you said you don't do a lot of adoptions, but or could they consent to some type of custodial arrangement that's more formal?
Well,
and permanent.
I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. And I think they consent to the 751. Like I said, it's temporary in name only for the most part. I mean, you actually file for a temporary custody, but you get a final judgment order from the judge granting you temporary custody, and it pretty much carries all the rights and with it of having custody of the child. It just doesn't. I mean, you could even ask for child support. So,
but temporary in nature until somebody contests it, or is there a time limit of only lasts 90 days or 6 months?
It's open-ended. So it's basically indefinite.
Okay.
I mean, it's indefinite, but temporary.
And you beg somebody to come challenge that who's abandoned their kid for 11 years.
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
Now, Maria, I would suggest this, and we've said this on every Answers tonight, I think. Contact an attorney like Rob's office that can help you walk through this process, because it's not something that you want to do by yourself. Some of we're simplifying the process a lot tonight on a lot of these items. So there's a lot of formalities that are involved. Scheduling notices that have to be sent out to legal parents and legal guardians, and just to make sure that you do it correctly and do it right the first time, I would highly recommend you hiring an attorney who specializes in this field.